Hello, everybody. YouTube exclusive for you. Stevie and I were doing some basically admin for other stuff, really, and then we thought, you know what? Why don't we do a what went wrong? Because something... I watched WrestlePalooza all the way through. I didn't notice anything had gone wrong at the time, but apparently Jey Uso fell afoul of a chair shot that he himself delivered. So over to you, Stevie. What went wrong?
Well, thank you very much, James. And I will say this, that I'm very jealous of your garage gym setup. And as a matter of fact, I started reconfiguring mine this morning after I saw your excellent WrestlePalooza review with your brand new Hollyland microphone. Congratulations on being their new model, the spokes model that I sent. Yep. Anybody that loves nostril shots of microphones, and you're going to love James as the front runner for spokes model for Hollyland. So let's get to this. We're going to go to the Netflix feed here and take a look at this and see exactly what went wrong. All right, so right there. Now, WWE obviously is still, for the most part, banning chair shots to the head. So this, what went wrong, is not like a high percentage of happenings where things go wrong. This is very much a freak accident, and we're going to say it multiple times. Hopefully, Jey is going to be okay. Hopefully not a serious concussion, if anyone. But this here is one of those things that are just a freak accident. He hits him, and like you said, nothing looked like it went wrong. It just looked like a regular chair shot. But you can automatically see right away that there's already some blood coming down Jey's forehead there. So, and he starts staggering, which is like really weird, because you're just like, he still throws the chair at Reed, but that's where you see that there's blood right there. So you know something went wrong, but it's one of those things that happens so quickly that nobody really knows. I think LA Knight was there, and we're going to enhance some audio or use a video angle with enhanced audio where he says basically go to the finish or skip to the finish. Well, let's take a look again. We're going to go in slow-mo right here. Ooh. Now I'm going to tell you right now, I have experience with this particular kind of shot. This is the side kind of part right here where when I did the JBL chair shot, hit him with the bar, that basically same kind of bar that's on the sides of these chairs, but he got crowned with the one up here and it split him wide open. So, and this is exactly what happened to Jey. Bounced up and hit him. Which is weird, because I thought when I watched it, because I was watching it 2 or 3 times, I was like, he just looks like he's leaning into the chair shot as he's throwing it, where usually a chair shot is, like, remember Austin on Brett at WrestleMania 13? Same kind of chair shot, but at the same time, Austin swung through, but it was ahead of him with that. So he cleared everything and followed through on Brett. Here it almost bounces off. I mean, it's exactly what it looked like. It bounces off of Braun Breaker. Now, I would say this, Braun Breaker's on an angle right here. That could also make it kind of, he's not on all fours and not flat like that. So he's sort of getting up. See how right there he's feeding it, but he's almost rounded out like this instead of saying with all four hands, 2 hands, 2 feet down and being parallel to the ropes and the mat. You have a question on that?
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's because if Braun's back isn't rounded out, then that sort of causes like a sort of twist in the arms when it ricochets back, because it doesn't really ricochet back very much either. And there's another thing, is it Jey's hand hitting him in the head or wrist, or is it the chair itself? Because there's only a small, like a frame or two where it'd be obvious, so you'd have to really hunt that out, I guess.
Now, I would say this. He had his hand, but I still believe whatever he was holding it with, like right up here, that's what caught him. So his hand hit, but this part, if anything, it saved Jey from getting busted open lower near his eyebrows or anywhere where he would need. Obviously, he'll have a scar, kind of like Don Callis still has that scar for like how many years later, 1 or 2 years. You ever see Don Callis? He still carries that really deep scar from when he got busted open. Jay kind of saved himself, and it looked like more from the picture that he got busted like right at the hairline, which you can cover that up pretty easily. But there's two things that went wrong with this. The first thing that went wrong is Braun Breaker's positioning, and maybe that kind of exposes how green he is. Because what Jay should have did, and tell me if you agree, and everybody in the comments as well, when you're seated up like this, you're either like this or down on all fours, no, not in between, and that's where Braun Breaker is. So if he was going to do, basically, he's in a position. Remember when Rocky hit Ken Shamrock in the face with the chair shot? Shamrock was up. So for the same position, Jay would have swung the chair sideways like this, almost like it's in a standing position. But Braun Breaker is in between. Also, when Jay swings the chair, look how close his head and body are to the chair when he swings it. There's really no room. In other words, when Austin swung through, the chair shot, because of Brett being on all fours, gave enough room for Austin to swing through and also his head to be nowhere near. Plus, he literally was swinging the chair where after he hit Brett, it almost went through him to the mat, and then he threw it to the side. So that's exactly what went wrong there. It's a freak thing. It's honestly the first time I've ever seen anyone get busted open using the chair on somebody else. So it's definitely a double positioning problem. First one by Braun Breaker, which Jay's kind of throwing the chair shot in on him based on the incorrect angle that he's at right now, the in-between angle, and then it popped up and got him. And then, man, it's staggering. He has to have a concussion, because it's like one of those things where somebody really gets their bell rung in football and they're kind of going to the wrong sideline type thing. That's what I noticed. Really what went wrong is what we're going to talk about after we go through this one or two more times. And that's, they continued to bump him after that. Even if they cut it short and went to the finish, you got to not have the guy bump after that.
I don't think I fully blame WWE for this, because, as you say, it's such a freak occurrence that I don't think anybody could have really particularly figured it out at the time, unless Jay would have said so. And I don't even know if he actually chatted to LA Knight, or it was just so obvious that he was out of it, kind of thing.
I think.
But then even there, he doesn't look particularly out until he sits back in the ropes.
Yeah, that's when LA Knight right here knows I gotta get them to the finish, or call them. He didn't call the match, but I got to get them to the finish as soon as possible. Now, I don't know where Jimmy is, because you watched it. Was he taken out right before this? Because I would have had tag in Jimmy and take the finish.
Yeah, this was pretty much at the end anyway. So Jimmy's on the outside somewhere, and then he comes back in, and then Braun Breaker spears them both through a table. So I think, and we've got an angle on another video as well, I think he takes 3 more moves. So LA Knight, I know we've got an enhanced audio version of it, so you can hear if Chris can B-roll it in.
Any dimes here in Indianapolis.
That's the point where he just basically told Jay right there, checked on him. Maybe Jay, he sees the blood, and Jay said, couldn't answer him. Maybe he was just so loopy. So he goes right to Braun Breaker and says, skip to the finish, go to the finish. And that was the spear and then the splash, correct?
Yeah, he says, I think he specifically says go for a spear rather than go for the finish. And then he goes for the spear. And then there is a splash, and then both Jimmy and Jay go through the table.
My thought is he might have told Jimmy right there, you're feed for the spear. Because why would Jimmy just stagger out without the prompt? So LA Knight, this is where we did the referee. Go back and watch the clip on referees. This is where a referee, and him being a worker, this is why I still advocate that a lot of former workers that can't compete anymore should be referees, because he can think more on the fly. A referee may have just thrown up the X, which isn't the worst thing to do, but at the same time, if they want to go to the finish and they're not sure of how bad Jay is with a concussion or even getting split open, you're not going to know until you get to the back. So this is 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, which is the best way to go with this. But having a worker in the ring, he can communicate like that, and I have to give it to him. He's never really reffed, so he's already aware enough to control the match and have the spear happen right here. But what I'm saying is Jey very easily could have hit the back of his head, or at least the impact of the whiplash could have made whatever concussive effect the chair had even worse. And then getting splashed, and then we're going to see something post-match that worried a lot of people. But I still think after the Seth Rollins thing, and I don't want to be that guy, there's probably people saying, well, was that a work? What, the boy who cried wolf type thing. We've already been tricked once or twice recently. Hopefully, Jey definitely got busted open. That much is real. But you know what I mean? The after effects of getting beat, is he just selling it, or is this a side effect instantly of a concussion?
We do know that he's already in concussion protocol, so we're recording this on a Monday. I'm not sure he's going to be at Raw on Monday, and if he is, probably not going to wrestle, I figure. So
he better
we're
not.
going to go to the...
He better not. But you never know. They protect him from himself. Here's we go. I'm not saying WWE is going to put him in harm's way, but Jey's right there and doesn't want to, quote, lose his spot. He's going to do everything he can to keep. Now, Jey can cut a promo. Jey can be in the crowd. Jey can do a lot of things without taking bumps and still be over. That's what I was saying during the Kyle Fletcher thing. Now that he's having better promos, man, you get hurt, you could still cut a promo, and you can get more over that way. Maybe this could be, in a way, a bad thing happened to Jey, but it's a way to keep him from just having matches and doing some special stuff to create moments with his charisma and everything else.
Let's go to the fan cam.
All right, so let's take a look here. So there's this post-match right here. And this is where people were getting kind of scared about this, that Jey started to have some sort of seizure event or an attack of some sort. And Jimmy looked visibly worried about this. He's pulling him out of the ring now. Well, let's get a look at Jey. Definitely bleeding. Definitely staggered. Definitely out on his feet.
He was on the apron for like a minute and a half, 2 minutes, because they showed replays of the finish. They showed replays of the finish. They showed LA Knight arguing with Bronson Reed. Then Paul Heyman came in, raised both their arms, and then they left, and Jey was still on the apron.
Is he? Some people have kind of guessed that he was having some sort of anxiety attack or something. So I'm not quite sure, unless he was just, his breathing is incredibly labored right here. I mean, it's, Jimmy's tapping him, but Jimmy's visibly like a little, shaken by all this too. Jey's talking to him. Jimmy's talking to him as well. You have the trainer there. You have the referee there. And it's like he's just hyperventilating, that he is having some sort of like event with this. And you can see Jimmy like put his arm around him saying, hey man, take it easy and take it easy. Yeah, I mean, that's his brother. That's his twin. Of course he's going to worry for him. This would be the part here. Obviously, there's a picture afterwards where Jey says, I'm okay, with a blood emoji after that. But yeah, this is probably scarier than the chair shot, James. Like, what is going on here where I can see look at his stomach just up and down, hyperventilating. That's the scariest part for me, that like, and you're losing blood and your blood pressure is going up and everything with a concussion. Super, super scary.
Yeah, I mean, I suspect losing a lot of blood in a short amount of time can trigger something adrenaline-wise and, just send your body into shock almost a bit.
Yeah, this is where I have the contention of, and you're saying, well, they didn't know how serious it was or anything like that. Is it the chair shot that staggered him and caused this? Or is it the chair shot that knocked him loopy, gave him concussion, he was out on his feet, and then the moves after that to get to the finish were what really kind of, because he took a pretty solid splash as well from Bronson Reed. Could that have sent him into some sort of thing that tightened him up, blood pressure, all that stuff?
I mean, obviously not to defend WWE too much, but only as a fan I can say, and they're in the ring, they're closer to the situation, but I was watching it and I didn't even notice anything was wrong. I barely noticed he was bleeding. Because... the chair shot and the bleeding's one thing. That to me, these may be, in a way, a cumulative effect. The chair shot wasn't what made him go into what event he had on the apron where he was there
for an uncomfortably long time. And Jimmy trying to console him and calm him down. To me, I'm looking at it as, like I said, altogether a cascading effect from the chair shot, staggering, and then taking a spear, and then taking a splash after that was the finish, correct?
Yeah, a double spear. No, so it was spear, and then I think double spear, and then splash.
Okay, 3 moves then. So basically he got speared through a table, already concussed, and kind of got folded up in the table, and then took a splash. So he might have been already kind of freaked out, and then he took those moves, which literally put a lot of, impact on your sternum, on your breath and everything. So he could be like hyperventilating from that, as well as being freaked out because he hit himself in the head with a chair, and now he's kind of out of control of the situation.
Yeah, no, my only contention would be is I don't think the company should get blamed for this, just because, as I say, I'm a fan watching it. If you didn't notice, which nobody at the time noticed, that he hit himself in the head, and I'd wager LA Knight, who's as close as anyone there, Bron Breakker wouldn't have noticed, he wasn't looking, but even LA Knight probably wasn't even noticing. And then he saw the out-of-character stagger, and then he sort of thought, well, let's just get through this and sort of deal with the facts a little later.
Yeah.
If it was obvious he just smashed himself in the head with the chair and concussed himself, I'm sure it would have been the X, and everything else is just such a confluence of just like very unlikely circumstances why Jey would have taken a couple of moves beyond what he should have done. And I wanted to ask you this, Stevie, and you've done this move, in fact. The way that Jey...
19.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm going to say, but that's sort of what you do to hit yourself in the head with the chair. You bring your head very close to make sure it does that.
Well, what happened was, no, my head was not close to it. I actually met the chair. There's two that, but I want to say this first and foremost. I'm not blaming WWE, and I'm not calling out WWE. I'm actually calling out LA Knight in a positive way. Once again, advocating for more workers to become referees, because I do believe that he saw it. He kind of saw that he got busted open a little bit, but the stagger and the ropes, and when LA Knight took a close look at him, he might have said something and Jay's not responding, or like, I can't see, or something. You know what I mean? He might have said something and be like, oh, geez, okay, feet for the spear. And here it comes by to remind them, because that's probably the next spot. Like you said, after that, he probably is going to go for another chair shot and get speared. That's my guess on how the spot was supposed to go. But no, then when he clued in Bron Breakker to spear him, that's what went right within the what went wrong. So WWE, no, I'm not blaming them. They're literally watching it from a distance, just like we would be from home. They're looking at the monitors. They don't have a tight shot on their own. They are probably trying to investigate during that, be like, hey, is Jey bleeding? What's going on? Don't get a close-up of Jey. Even in 2025, I think they're trying to not do full-on close-ups of blood and and I'm sure when they show the pictures in post, it will be black and white like they used to do. No, this is very much more not calling WWE out, but also saying it's a freak, like maybe even 1 in a million injury, and to say what went right, to give credit where credit is due, that everybody else, especially LA Knight, did whatever they could to, I guess, assess the situation and decided to go home 30 seconds, 45 seconds, a minute to do that. The scariest part, obviously, I go back to it, is Jey on the apron and Jimmy being visibly upset. That scares me more than the chair shot.
The only other time I specifically remember this happening, someone hitting themselves in the head with a chair by accident, was Steve Austin. Because he's sort of gearing himself up to hit somebody with a chair, and then for whatever reason hits the chair on the ropes, and it legitimately bounces back and hit him in the head. I went, whoa!
Yeah.
And then he hit the dude as well.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, if you're going to hit yourself in the head with a chair, especially the easiest way off the ropes, like I did at WrestleMania 19, you want to make sure first and foremost that the seat is facing you. Because guess what? If you're saying, well, the bottom of the seat is just as flat as the top, well, guess what, though? The bottom of the seat has an extra bar around it. You just want to make sure that and for me, I hit myself and then it kind of went up. I could have sliced it. If there was a bad weld in there, much like the cages, I could have just sliced my whole head open. So incredibly lucky to do it. But yeah, that was right up there. That was my WrestleMania moment, part one, before the WrestleMania 22 one. I'm sure Vince rolled his eyes at that as well.
Before we go on this, I sent you one more video and I said, don't watch it until we're on air. And it was just a funny thing from, I think, the post-show WrestlePalooza, not press conference, but they sit at the table and chat and everything. Cody Rhodes tries to throw a towel to the crowd, but he's not noticed something. Play.
All right. I may not react to this. I might not see it. I might have to play it a couple times.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see what he does. It bounces off.
Yeah, he didn't realize there was a big plexiglass screen.
Oh, there is. Why is that?
It's probably because they can't spit on him. Or, when Triple H goes up there and says, are you chanting Cross? No, you're not. You're chanting Brock, I can tell.
You know what's funny? Maybe not so much you're being facetious with the spitting. Do you think that is to soundproof the area so they can't have those chants anymore, or at least not as audible as when it was open air?
I think potentially that's one of the reasons, yeah, definitely. Because what would the other difference be? You can still see the fans behind, so it's not like blocking obscene gestures or anything else. Or maybe if a fan jumps the rail, then they have to go round the plexiglass glass thing to jump.
That's
just
true.
In case.
There's a lot of different reasons. But you would have to think there's a glare from these lights right here. You see them right there because the lights are behind. Those lights are there, but they're bouncing off of this. So, like Vince used to say, can I get a clean shot here? Come on. But that's funny. I know when Cody hugged him, because Turkey likes that, right? That's the guy who said it. Joe, what's his name? He hugged him and he was like, damn plexiglass. That's Cody probably said. Hey, the plexiglass looks good because someone must have wiped it down good. Cody didn't even know it was there. But yeah, I think it's more to kind of shield any kind of chance, at least to the most part, to dampen them so they can fill in with DJ Jazzy Def whatever chance they want. Yeah, we hear you, Brock. You want Brock, right? Hey, your assessment of that, that's the clip I saw when he was giving Cena F5s. I'm like, how high is this dude's blood pressure? Oh my God.
I was like, he's looking more like the Ultimate Warrior just before he dropped. You know when he was cutting that promo and he was like red and huffing and puffing. Now, Brock Lesnar's clearly in better shape, but he's like 300 pounds plus.
Yeah. He looked like an exploding tomato. Bill DeMott used to have exploding tomato as a username on
AOL. To quote Scrubs, you look like a strawberry. That's it. That's my quote for the day. All right, everybody, thank you so much. We'll be back on Friday with a brand new episode of the Stevie Richards Show. See you then.